What's up, everybody? Derek here, and today we are down on the creek to have a little talk about something very important. How are you going to power your small boat, kayak, john boat, whatever it might be? Let's say you have a light boat that is small, fits two of you. What are you going to power that thing with? And that is the debate that you got to consider, the pros and cons, all those things you got to weigh. Now, I used to be a trolling motor guy, strictly. I used to go fishing all day, two to three batteries most of the time, and I could fish and just burn with the trolling motor. 55 thrust. I've had 109 thrust on my john boat, and that's all I would fish with. You know, the electric only lakes and all that stuff. If that's an option and all you can have is electric only, then that's all you got. You got a trolling motor. Easy decision. But what if you've got a small boat like a Pelican Bass Raider, a kayak, a john boat, anything that can be powered by a small motor? Are you going to want to choose a trolling motor? Because a lot of times it will burn up that battery because of the resistance to flow that will happen whenever you're pushing that thing along. Now, a battery is potential energy, which is stored energy, which means you're going to use it up at some point, and just like a gas engine, it's the same. But which do you think you can come with more of? A big gas tank or a bunch of big old batteries? I think in my case, if I can find a clean running gas outboard, I'm going to bring that gas. And then what if you have the ability to use both? Then you know what you're going to do. You're going to use both. You could use your gas outboard to just putt along and get to where you need to go, and then use your trolling motor and just run a bank. Or maybe you just take a gas outboard. Maybe you're a river fisherman. Maybe you're fishing the wind on a lake. Maybe you're using a lot of the things that it's not going to take to use an electric motor. Like for me, for instance, I could drift. I could use the current on a river. I could use the wind to my advantage on a lake. And I could just play that and go down those bank lines or any of that other stuff and just use a paddle to move out a little bit and then reposition and, you know, use that to my advantage. Now, less weight means less work. So if you're going through shallow stuff like on creeks and rivers, you're going from deep spot to deep spot, you're having to drag, you're having to carry that stuff. Who knows what you're having to do with those things. So an outboard is, I just recently bought one on Amazon, for instance. $300 outboard. It's a 4 horsepower 4-stroke. Thing is quiet. It just putts along, low gas usage, and it gets me to where I want to go. And it does about the equivalent of what the horsepower is on my Pelican Bass Raider, which is about 4 to 5 miles an hour. I put my kids in it, another 100 pounds, does about the same. Loses maybe a couple decimal points on the speed. Now, an electric motor, you're going to want to crank that thing on high to get back up to that speed to get your spot, and you're going to start running down those batteries. Let's say you got a 12 volt, 55 thrust, for example. $200 motor with a, let's say, $80 to $90 marine battery that you get from Walmart. So that's about 70 to 80 pounds. Plus the trolling motor, so you're looking at somewhere around 100 pounds right there. Just the trolling motor and the battery. Now, you want a backup battery, there's another 80 pounds. So now you're looking at somewhere around a 150 to, I don't know, 175, something like that in weight. Now, you take the same size motor, it can do about the same speed in gas. And sure, that gas is going to weigh a little bit, but you don't have to bring as much battery as that's going to weigh. You bring about 5 to 10 pounds of gas, and then the outboard that I bought, the 4 horse that I just said, weighs 30 pounds. So weight difference is big time, and they do about the same speed. Now, I also have a 6.5 mud motor that is just basically a lawnmower motor with of a long tail kit, which means I can go in shallow stuff, and it got my john boat up to about 15 miles an hour. That weighs, oh goodness, 60, 70 pounds at least. And then on top of that, it did about 15 miles an hour. So that's a lot more speed potential that I could use getting to where I want to go. So another $200 and there I go, I'm flying. So those are some options that you have to weigh whenever you're Fishing out of a kayak, you got to really think about that weight to horsepower ratio. And you can put a long pole on an outboard like what I've got, and I described as that Amazon motor. And there's other motors. You can find them on Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist. You can find these small motors that are older engines that you can rebuild the carbs and just rebuild the lower unit, or just fill it back up with some good oil and make sure the seals and the water impeller are all good to go. You got a good running engine. Now, $300 for a 4 horsepower 4-stroke is a really good buy. Now, for a kayak, a trolling motor, and a battery, everybody in the kayak world is switching to lithium, and those things are super expensive. So, cost, weight, you know, pros, cons, all that stuff in consideration. I like to be in a Pelican Bass Raider or a John boat a lot of the time. And let's say you need what do they call it? A kicker engine for the back. Maybe you're a trolling guy, like up north, walleye. That engine's perfect for that. You throw it right on the back and just let that thing putt along, and you're trolling in no time for cheap. But those are some of the things that you got to weigh into consideration when you're considering a trolling motor or a gas outboard. Now, you can go spend over $1,000 for a really nice Mercury Tahatsu. There's so many different little bitty old school Johnsons. You can buy newer motors, or you can buy old school used ones, but Amazon, some of those Japanese, Chinese made motors actually run really good, and you can buy parts for them, which is quite surprising. You can buy propellers, you can buy carb kits, because they're basically just an oversized 4-stroke weed eater engine for the most part, and they run good. I don't know, I haven't had any problems out of mine, and it's gotten me on a ton of fishing trips already. But anyways, guys, I hope that helped y'all if you're trying to consider a trolling motor or a gas engine for your boat or small craft or whatever you want to call it. But thanks for watching, you guys, and subscribe if you haven't already. Like this video if you liked it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.